Have you ever found yourself wide awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, wondering why sleep suddenly feels like a distant memory? If you were over 60, you were not alone. Sarah, a 72-year-old retired teacher, had slept soundly her entire life, until suddenly, at 65, she began waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. almost every night. No matter how tired she felt, her body seemed determined to rob her of those precious hours of rest. "I would fall asleep without any problem," Sarah told me. "But then, like clockwork, my eyes would snap open around 3 a.m. I'd lie there for hours watching the minutes tick by, feeling more frustrated with each passing night. My doctor just told me it was normal aging, but that answer wasn't good enough. There had to be a real explanation. What Sarah didn't realize, what many of us don't understand, is that these middle-of-the-night awakenings aren't just random annoyances or the inevitable cost of growing older. They were often the result of a critical hormone in your body that changes dramatically as you age: cortisol. Today, we were diving deep into why so many people over 60 experience these frustrating sleep disruptions, and more importantly, what you can actually do about them. Because the truth is, poor sleep isn't just about feeling tired the next day. It is linked to serious health issues that can dramatically impact your quality of life and longevity. Did you know that consistent sleep disruption after 60 has been associated with a 27% higher risk of developing cognitive decline? Or that seniors who regularly experience fragmented sleep have nearly twice the rate of cardiovascular incidents compared to those who sleep soundly? These aren't just statistics. They represent real health consequences that many doctors don't adequately address when they dismiss sleep problems as just part of getting older. The good news? Once you understand what's really happening in your body, you can take specific steps to reclaim those lost hours of sleep and wake up feeling truly rested again. Many of my viewers over 65 have reported dramatic improvements in their sleep quality and their overall health after implementing the strategies I am about to share with you. Don't miss the final insight. It's one that most people overlook, yet it holds incredible power in predicting what lies ahead. These markers could completely reshape how you see your future and add valuable years to your life. If this has sparked your interest, show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this video with those you care about. Together, let us make informed choices for a healthier, longer life. Point 1. The cortisol connection. When we talk about sleep problems after 60, most people immediately blame an aging bladder, aches and pains, or just getting older. But there's a deeper explanation that few understand. Your cortisol rhythm is likely changing in ways that directly sabotage your sleep. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but that's only part of its story. It's actually your body's primary regulator of energy and alertness throughout the day. Think of it as your body's natural caffeine. It promotes wakefulness and drives your energy levels hour by hour. In a healthy pattern, cortisol follows what scientists call a diurnal rhythm. It peaks in the morning to help you wake up. Roughly 50% of your daily cortisol is released within 30 minutes of waking, then gradually decreases throughout the day, reaching its lowest point at night when it's time to sleep. This predictable rhythm has orchestrated your sleep-wake cycle for decades. But here is what happens after 60. This finely tuned rhythm often becomes disrupted. Instead of staying low at night, cortisol can spike during those early morning hours, essentially telling your brain, time to wake up, even when it's nowhere near morning. This isn't a malfunction so much as a recalibration of your entire hormonal system that comes with aging. Take Robert, for example. At 67, he found himself consistently waking up around 3 a.m., feeling strangely alert, despite having gone to bed exhausted. "It was the oddest thing," he explained. "I'd wake up with my mind racing, completely alert, as if my body thought it was morning. I couldn't understand why I felt so awake when it was still the middle of the night." When his doctor finally ordered a 24-hour cortisol test, the results were revealing. Robert's cortisol was rising sharply between 2-4 a.m., hours before dawn. This early morning surge was essentially giving him an unwanted hormonal alarm clock. What's most surprising is that this pattern had never appeared in testing he had done in his 40s. This disruption happens for several interconnected reasons. First, your stress response system becomes more sensitive with age. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis, which controls cortisol release, becomes more reactive after 60. The same amount of stress that your body could easily handle at 40 now triggers a much stronger cortisol release at 60 plus. Even minor stressors, a slight noise, a mild worry, or a subtle drop in blood sugar, can trigger significant cortisol release. Second, the pineal gland, which produces melatonin, your sleep hormone, naturally calcifies with age, producing less of this critical sleep regulator. Research shows that by age 70, most people produce less than half the melatonin they did at 30. With less melatonin to counterbalance cortisol, even small cortisol increases can jolt you awake. It is like losing the protective buffer that once kept minor cortisol fluctuations from disturbing your sleep. Third, the hypothalamus, your brain's master control center for hormones, becomes less efficient at regulating these delicate balances as you age. The small cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, that orchestrates your 24-hour biological rhythms physically shrinks with age, containing fewer cells and weaker connections between them. Finally, receptors throughout your body become less sensitive to both cortisol and melatonin signals, requiring larger hormonal shifts to achieve the same effect. This means your body sometimes overcompensates, producing excessive cortisol spikes that penetrate your sleep. So what can you do about this biological shift? You need to start by stabilizing your cortisol throughout the day with these research-backed approaches. Maintain a consistent wake-up time, even on weekends. This single habit helps reset your cortisol rhythm more effectively than almost any other intervention. Varying your wake time by even 60-90 minutes can disrupt your cortisol pattern for up to 48 hours afterward. Get morning sunlight within 30 minutes of waking up. This natural light exposure helps regulate your cortisol cycle and strengthens your circadian rhythm. Aim for at least 10-15 minutes of outdoor light, even on cloudy days, as outdoor light is significantly brighter than indoor lighting, typically 10,000 lux outdoors compared to just 500 lux indoors. Practice targeted stress reduction techniques, particularly in the evening hours. Research shows that gentle yoga, tai chi, or 10 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing can lower cortisol levels by as much as 30% before bedtime. Consider tracking your sleep with a simple diary to identify patterns and triggers. Document not just sleep quality but also daytime activities, meals, and stressors to spot correlations. Experiment with adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha or holy basil, which research suggests may help regulate cortisol patterns. A 2019 study found that 300 ml of ashwagandha extract twice daily reduced cortisol levels by 22% in stressed adults within 8 weeks. Remember, understanding that cortisol, not just aging, is behind many sleep disruptions is the first step toward addressing the real problem rather than just treating the symptoms. With the right approach, you can work with your body as changing hormonal landscape rather than fighting against it. Point 2. Hidden stress triggers that spike cortisol at night. One of the most overlooked aspects of nighttime waking is how seemingly harmless daytime habits can trigger those 3 a.m. cortisol spikes. These hidden stress triggers often fly under the radar because they don't necessarily make you feel stressed when they happen. Margaret, a 73-year-old who prided herself on her calm demeanor, could not understand why she kept waking up at night despite feeling relaxed during the day. What she didn't realize was that her habit of watching the evening news right before bed was flooding her system with stress hormones, even though she felt emotionally detached from the troubling stories. Here are the most common hidden triggers that can cause those middle-of-the-night cortisol spikes. First, consuming news or social media in the evening. Your conscious mind might process these as just information, but your primitive brain registers conflicts, arguments, and negative news as potential threats, triggering cortisol release that can peak hours later, right when you should be in deep sleep. Second, erratic eating patterns. When you eat irregularly or skip meals, your blood sugar fluctuates, which can trigger cortisol release as your body tries to maintain energy balance. Even if this happens during the day, the hormonal disruption can affect your sleep hours later. Third, evening exercise for some people. While exercise is generally wonderful for sleep, vigorous workouts after 6 p.m. can cause cortisol elevations that persist into the night for some people over 60, as aging bodies take longer to metabolize stress hormones. Fourth, certain medications commonly prescribed to older adults can interfere with cortisol patterns. These include some blood pressure medications, steroids, and even certain antidepressants. To address these hidden triggers, create a news curfew. No news or social media at least 2 hours before bed. Maintain regular meal times with a light protein snack before bed if nighttime hunger disrupts your sleep. Consider moving intense exercise to morning or early afternoon. Review your medications with your doctor, specifically asking about sleep effects. Never stop taking prescribed medications without medical guidance. James, a 68-year-old retired accountant, implemented a simple news curfew at 7 p.m. and switched to reading fiction before bed. Within a week, his 2 a.m. wakings decreased from nightly to just twice a week. Small changes can make a remarkable difference when you target the right triggers. If you were still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment cortisol below so I know this information is reaching you. Now, let us move to our next critical point. Point 3. The blood sugar-cortisol connection. One of the most critical yet underappreciated factors in middle-of-the-night waking is the connection between your blood sugar and cortisol levels. This relationship becomes increasingly sensitive after 60, creating a perfect storm for sleep disruption that most doctors completely overlook. Here is the mechanism that's robbing you of sleep. When your blood sugar drops during the night, something that occurs more easily in older adults, your body perceives this as a survival emergency. In response, it releases cortisol to raise blood sugar by triggering your liver to convert stored glycogen to glucose. This emergency response, evolutionarily designed to keep you alive during times of famine, unfortunately also floods your system with a hormone that jolts you wide awake. It's like having a smoke alarm that triggers not just when there is a fire, but also when you are cooking dinner. The system is trying to protect you, but it has become hypersensitive. Consider Thomas, a 65-year-old retired accountant who ate what he thought was a healthy dinner of pasta with tomato sauce and a bowl of fruit for dessert. "I'd go to bed feeling fine," he explained, "but would suddenly wake up around 3 a.m. with my heart racing and my mind completely alert. It was like someone had injected me with adrenaline. I'd lie there for hours, unable to fall back asleep." After 3 months of frustration and increasingly severe sleep deprivation, Thomas consulted a nutritionist who specialized in adult metabolism. Through detailed food journaling and some basic glucose monitoring, they discovered something surprising. His healthy, carb-heavy dinners were causing his blood sugar to spike dramatically after eating, then crash precipitously during the night. This blood sugar roller coaster was triggering a substantial cortisol release that was literally frightening his body awake. This blood sugar-cortisol connection becomes significantly more pronounced after 60 for several interconnected reasons that create what scientists call dysglycemia, unstable blood sugar patterns. First, muscle mass naturally decreases with age, sarcopenia, typically at a rate of 3 to 8% per decade after 30, accelerating after 60. Since muscle tissue is where most glucose is used and stored, less muscle means dramatically less capacity to regulate blood sugar. By age 70, many adults have lost enough muscle mass that their glucose regulation is fundamentally altered, even if they are not diabetic. Second, insulin sensitivity often declines with age, a condition called insulin resistance. Your pancreas still produces insulin, but your cells become less responsive to its signals. Research shows that by age 60, glucose effectiveness, how well your body handles glucose independent of insulin, can decline by as much as 30% compared to younger adults. This means your blood sugar stays higher longer after meals, then can drop more dramatically during the night. Third, many older adults develop a condition called dawn phenomenon, where the body preemptively releases cortisol and other counter-regulatory hormones in the early morning hours, typically between 2 and 8 a.m., to prevent low blood sugar. This natural process, which intensifies with age, can become overzealous, releasing more cortisol than needed and disrupting sleep in the process. Fourth, age-related changes to liver function affect glycogen storage and release. Your liver becomes less efficient at both storing glucose as glycogen and releasing it steadily throughout the night, leading to more erratic blood sugar patterns during sleep. To stabilize your blood sugar and prevent these cortisol-triggering crashes, you need a strategic approach. Restructure your evening meal to emphasize protein, healthy fats, and fiber while moderating carbohydrates. A study in the Journal of Sleep Research found that higher protein, lower glycemic meals before bedtime reduce night wakings by 62% in older adults compared to high carbohydrate meals. Consider a targeted bedtime snack specifically designed to provide slow-release energy throughout the night. The ideal combination includes a small amount of complex carbohydrates, which help tryptophan cross into the brain to make melatonin, plus protein and healthy fat, which slow digestion and provide steady glucose release. Good options include a tablespoon of almond butter on a small piece of whole grain toast, a small handful of walnuts with a quarter cup of blueberries, or half a cup of plain Greek yogurt with a teaspoon of honey and cinnamon. Strategically time your carbohydrate intake earlier in the day, when your insulin sensitivity is naturally higher. Research from the University of Surrey found that the same carbohydrate portion consumed at breakfast had a 25% lower glycemic impact than when eaten at dinner. Avoid the blood sugar disruptors that specifically impact sleep: sugar, refined carbohydrates, and alcohol in the evenings. Alcohol is particularly problematic as it initially raises blood sugar, then causes a dramatic drop 2 to 3 hours later, as your liver prioritizes processing the alcohol over maintaining steady glucose levels. Implement post-dinner movement. A gentle 10-15-minute walk after your evening meal can reduce post-meal blood glucose spikes by up to 22% according to a 2022 meta-analysis, helping prevent the later crash that might wake you up. Consider supplements that support blood sugar stability, such as magnesium, which many seniors are deficient in, and chromium. A 2021 review found that adequate magnesium status was associated with improved sleep quality and reduced nighttime awakenings, partially through its effects on glucose metabolism. Elizabeth, a 70-year-old former nurse with prediabetes, experienced the transformative power of addressing this connection firsthand. I had tried everything for my insomnia: sleep medications, meditation, even cognitive behavioral therapy. Nothing worked consistently, she shared. After learning about the blood sugar-cortisol connection, she implemented a targeted nutrition approach, emphasizing protein at dinner and adding a small bedtime snack of a few almonds and a slice of cheese. The change was dramatic, she reported. Within a week, my middle-of-the-night awakenings decreased from nightly to just twice a week. After a month of consistent practice, I was sleeping through the night 5 to 6 times weekly, something I hadn't experienced in years. And interestingly, my fasting blood sugar improved too. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate carbohydrates, but to create balanced meals that provide steady energy throughout the night, preventing those cortisol-triggering blood sugar drops that jolt you awake. Your body isn't trying to torture you, it's trying to keep you alive. By working with this system rather than against it, you can reclaim your sleep and wake truly rested. Point 4. Inflammation. Hidden role in disrupting sleep. What if I told you that the same process that makes your joints ache or your sinuses swell could also be what waking you up at 3 a.m.? Chronic low-grade inflammation, which increases naturally with age, has a direct and powerful impact on both cortisol and sleep patterns. David, a 71-year-old with mild arthritis, noticed that his sleep problems seemed to worsen during flare-ups. What he didn't realize was that inflammation doesn't just cause pain. It actually triggers cortisol release as part of the body, as an attempt to reduce that inflammation. This creates a vicious cycle. Inflammation raises cortisol. Elevated cortisol at night disrupts sleep, and poor sleep further increases inflammation. After age 60, your body becomes more prone to inflammation due to several factors. First, a natural age-related increase in inflammatory molecules called cytokines, part of a process scientists call inflammaging. Second, changes in gut bacteria composition that occur with age can increase systemic inflammation. Third, accumulated exposure to environmental toxins and stress throughout life creates a higher inflammatory baseline. This increased inflammation doesn't just affect your joints or digestion, it directly impacts your brain, sleep centers, and your cortisol rhythm. To reduce inflammation and improve sleep, incorporate anti-inflammatory foods into your daily diet, especially at dinner. These include fatty fish, olive oil, colorful berries, leafy greens, and turmeric. Identify and minimize food sensitivities, which can trigger inflammation. Common culprits after 60 include dairy, gluten, and nightshade vegetables for some people. Consider a warm bath with Epsom salts before bed, which reduces inflammation and lowers core body temperature, both promoting better sleep. Talk to your doctor about having your C-reactive protein, CRP levels checked, a simple blood test that measures inflammation in your body. For Patricia, a 68-year-old with frequent sleep disruptions, adding an anti-inflammatory evening meal with salmon, sweet potatoes, and leafy greens 3 times a week, plus eliminating dairy, to which she had a mild sensitivity, reduced her nighttime waking episodes by over 60% within 3 weeks. The connection between inflammation, cortisol, and sleep is so strong that addressing inflammation often improves sleep even when nothing else has worked. If you are still with me and finding value in these insights, please comment inflammation below. Your engagement helps more people discover this important information. Now let's move on to our final and perhaps most overlooked factor. Point 5. The circadian reset solution. The final and perhaps most powerful approach to stopping those middle-of-the-night wakings addresses the root of the problem, your circadian rhythm itself. After 60, this internal clock, which orchestrates everything from hormone release to body temperature to sleep cycles, often becomes weaker and more easily disrupted. William, a retired pilot with decades of international travel, struggled with inconsistent sleep for years after retirement. What he didn't realize was that his circadian rhythm had weakened, making it hypersensitive to even minor disruptions. The science is clear. A strong, well-entrained circadian rhythm is the foundation for healthy cortisol patterns and restorative sleep. After 60, this system needs more consistent support than ever before. Here is why circadian disruption becomes more problematic with age. First, your suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, the brain's master clock, contains fewer cells, and has weaker electrical signaling as you age. Second, your eyes transmit less light to this clock due to smaller pupils and yellowing lenses, reducing the critical light signals that set your daily rhythm. Third, many seniors have more irregular daily schedules after retirement, providing fewer time cues to reinforce circadian patterns. The good news is that you can strengthen this weakened system with a technique chronobiologists call circadian reinforcement. Create strong Zeitgebers, time givers, by getting bright natural light exposure within 30 minutes of waking. Aim for at least 10 to 15 minutes of outdoor morning light, even on cloudy days. Develop consistent daily anchor points, regular times for waking, meals, exercise, and bedtime that don't vary by more than 30-60 minutes, even on weekends. Create a sundown simulation in the evening by dimming lights, using amber-colored glasses, and avoiding blue light from screens at least 90 minutes before bed. Consider time-restricted eating, which means containing all your meals within a 10-12-hour window each day, a pattern that strengthens circadian signals. Helen, a 74-year-old who had tried numerous sleep medications without lasting success, implemented a strict morning light routine and consistent meal timing. Within 2 weeks, her sleep had improved so dramatically that her doctor was able to help her safely reduce her sleep medication. This circadian reinforcement approach is particularly powerful because it works upstream of many other interventions. By strengthening your body's master clock, you naturally improve cortisol patterns, melatonin production, and even blood sugar regulation. We've covered the 5 key factors that might be waking you up in the middle of the night after 60: cortisol disruption, hidden stress triggers, blood sugar instability, inflammation, and circadian rhythm weakening. Understanding these connections gives you powerful tools to reclaim your sleep that go far beyond the usual simplistic advice to avoid caffeine and create a dark bedroom. What makes this approach different is that we're readdressing the root biological causes rather than just masking symptoms. Most conventional sleep advice treats the symptom, wakefulness, without addressing why your body is waking up in the first place. When you understand the cortisol connection, you can work with your body's natural systems rather than fighting against them. When you address these root causes, you are not just improving your nights, you're re-enhancing your entire health picture. The sleep-health connection works in both directions. Better sleep improves overall health, and improved metabolic health leads to better sleep. Research from the National Institute on Aging has found that quality sleep after 60 is associated with 42% lower risk of cognitive decline over a 10-year period, significantly improved immune function, with better response to vaccines and reduced inflammation, better cardiovascular outcomes including lower blood pressure and improved heart rate variability, enhanced mood regulation and up to 30% reduced risk of depression, better blood sugar control, even in people with existing metabolic issues. Perhaps most importantly, quality sleep has been linked to increased longevity. A large-scale study following over 21,000 adults for 22 years found that those who maintained good sleep quality after age 60 lived on average 3 to 5 years longer than those with poor sleep quality, even after controlling for other health factors. Remember Sarah from the beginning of our discussion? Her story illustrates the transformative power of addressing these interconnected systems. After implementing these strategies, particularly consistent morning light exposure, an anti-inflammatory evening meal, and a small protein snack before bed, she went from waking up almost every night to sleeping soundly through the night 5 to 6 times a week. The change wasn't instantaneous, she shared. The first week, I still woke up most nights, but I noticed I could fall back asleep more easily. By the second week, I was sleeping through the night several times a week. Now 3 months in, I only wake up once or twice a week, and even then, I can usually drift back to sleep within minutes. What surprised Sarah most wasn't just her improved sleep, but the cascading health benefits that followed. At her next checkup, her doctor was amazed to see significant improvements in her blood pressure, fasting glucose, and inflammatory markers. My doctor actually asked what medication I was taking, Sarah laughed. When I told him I had simply fixed my sleep, he was shocked. He'd never made the connection between my sleep problems and my other health issues. Sarah's experience isn't unusual. When we correct the underlying imbalances that disrupt sleep, we're effectively retuning multiple bodily systems simultaneously. Here's a simple 7-day plan to get started. Day 1 to 2. Awareness and assessment. Begin tracking your sleep patterns, noting when you wake up and any patterns you observe. Implement consistent wake-up and bedtime, even on weekends. Start morning light exposure for 10-15 minutes within 30 minutes of waking. Day 3 to 4. Nutritional reset. Adjust your dinner to include protein, healthy fats, and moderate complex carbohydrates. Add an appropriate bedtime snack if you typically wake between 1 to 4 a.m. Eliminate evening alcohol and sugary treats. Day 5 to 6. stress and inflammation. Reduction. Implement a news and electronics curfew. Day 7, 2 hours
Full
before
integration.
Bed. Add anti-inflammatory foods
and
to your
notice how
evening
they
meal.
work together.
Pay
Begin a
attention to
simple
improvements,
5-minute deep breathing practice
ones.
before sleep.
Adjust timing and approaches based on your results. Remember, consistency is more important than perfection. Even implementing 2 to 3 of these strategies consistently will likely produce noticeable improvements within 1 to 2 weeks. Here I ask what I want you to remember. Those middle-of-the-night awakenings aren't just an inevitable part of aging that you must accept. They are often your body's response to specific physiological changes that you can address directly. By understanding the cortisol connection and implementing targeted strategies, you can experience sleep quality you might not have enjoyed in years. What's most exciting is that unlike many aspects of aging that are difficult to modify, sleep quality is remarkably responsive to the right interventions. Even people in their 80s and 90s can experience dramatic improvements when these underlying factors are addressed. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 factors do you think might be affecting your sleep the most? Have you tried any of these approaches, or do you have questions about implementing them? Leave a comment below and share your experiences or questions. If you found this information valuable, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us reach more people who might be suffering unnecessarily from poor sleep. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming video on the 7 foods that can dramatically reduce inflammation after 60. For those who want to dive deeper into this topic, we've created a free downloadable sleep guide with a 30-day implementation plan. The link is in the description below. It includes detailed meal suggestions, a sleep tracking template, and additional strategies beyond what we could cover today. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Remember that your sleep quality matters, not just for how you feel tomorrow, but for your long-term health and longevity. Sleep isn't a luxury or an indulgence. It is a biological necessity that becomes even more critical as we age. Here's to your better sleep, better days, and better health. And better